Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Louis Vuitton price increases. As of today, February 16th, the new prices have gone into effect here in the United States. So I have my infamous spreadsheet, 3 pages worth here. We're going to go through about 70 of the most popular items, and we're going to go line by line from old price to new price. I'm going to share some context as to where the prices were this time last year, the percentage increases, and where we see the most steep increases as well. There's all kinds of noises this morning, sirens, construction, but I got to get this done because I want to get this out in a timely manner, so hopefully you can bear with me. All right, let's start with the Pochette accessoire, because back in October 2021, which was the last round of price increases, I told you that there was a 33% increase on this little piece here. Well, there's been another price increase on this, so now it's been a 23% increase. So it went from being $1,050 to $1,290. So that is a $240 increase. And just to give you some context, this one right here, if you had purchased it this time last year, 12 months ago, it would have cost you $790. So the increases on this have been absolutely savage. So it went from $790 to $1,050 to $1,290, all in a matter of 1 year. I love this piece. I always talk about how versatile it is, but I don't think I would pay $1,290 for this. No. Okay, let's move on. Then we've got the multi-pochette. Still pretty popular, right? That went from $2,360 to $2,570. So that went up by $210. That's a 9% increase. The Felici Pochette went up quite a bit, actually. That went from $1,240 to $1,490. So that's a $250 increase, and that is equivalent to 20% jump. Let's talk about the mini pochette, because this may have seen the highest percentage increase in this round. This went up by 38%, almost 40% jump. So it was $540, and it is now $745. So it went up by $205. And just again, to give you context, if you had purchased this last year, same time last year, it would have been $445. Now it is $745. I'm not saying, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and I'm not condoning panic buying or anything like that. I'm just saying it's interesting to look back. It's been pretty insane. Okay, key pouch. This one is my daily companion. I take this with me everywhere. It went from $270 to now $325. So that's a $55 increase, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually 20%. So proportionally, that is pretty significant. The 6-key holder, which I don't have, went from $265 to $325. That's a $60 increase. That's equivalent to 23%. So these are pretty significant double-digit percentage increases we're talking about. The Victorine wallet went up by $5. That's a 1% increase. So it's now $575, whereas before it was $570. So that's minimal increase. The Rosalie coin purse, these are all items that I don't own, so I'm just going to run through them. Stayed the same, it looks like, at $400. So that one stayed flat. The card holders, the flat card holders, went from $220 to $265. So that's a $45 increase, again, 20%. Then let's talk about the Nice collection. Okay, here I pulled up on my iPad the Nice collection. You've got the Nano that went from $810 to $880. So that was a $70 increase, 9%. Then you've got the Mini, which went from $1030 to $1150. Which is a $120 increase. That's 12%. Then you've got the Nice BB that went from $1250 to $1290. So that's a $40 increase, equivalent to 3%. The Vanity stayed the same, it looks like, at $29.90. So I don't know why this one didn't go up. Maybe it's not as popular as the smaller versions, but this one stayed the same. So here's my Toiletry 26. I don't know the prices on these anymore because they pulled them from the website as of last year, and they're very, very hard to find even in the boutiques. But I do have the old prices from January of 2021, if that might be helpful. So the 15 size, which is the smallest, was $490 at the time. The 19 size, which is the middle size, was $540 at the time. And then this large one here was $580 at the time. But I know there was an increase since then, or maybe 2 increases since then. So I don't know if anyone is has information on the new prices on the toiletry pouches, could you please comment down below? That would be really helpful. And then I'll pin it at the top of my comments. This one here is the cosmetic pouch. This is the PM size. This went from $5.50 to $5.70, so that's a $20 increase. And it looks like the GM size, the larger one, did not go up, so it stayed flat at $6.75. Who knows if they'll update that later today on the website, but I didn't see a change there. For those of you who are interested in the agenda prices, I did look those up and it looks like all of those went up as well. So the small size agenda went from $3.95 to $4.50. That's a $55 increase at 14%. Then you've got the medium size that went from $6.60 to $6.75. That's a $15 increase, only 2%. And then the large size, which I know is very popular, went from $8.40 to $9.20, which is an $80 increase, equivalent to 10%. Then we've got the Pochette Metis, and the monogram and the reverse monogram both jumped to $25.70. So they were $23.60 before the increase, and they went up by $210. So that's a 9% increase. Again, the current price now is $25.70 on the Pochette Metis. The Empreinte version also went up from $25.70, which is now this price, and to $28.40. So again, the Empreinte version of this is $28.40. That was a $270 increase, equivalent to 11%. Interesting how the canvas version of the Pochette Metis is now the same price as what the Empreinte leather version was a few months ago. Okay, the Neverfulls. You guys know how I feel about the Neverfull, but anyway, I'm going to cover the prices. They all went up by $340 regardless of size. So these are the canvas versions. So the PM went from $1620 to $1960. The MM went from $1690 to $2030. So the MM size is now broken $2,000 threshold. It's over $2,000 to get the MM size Neverfull now. It's insane. The GM size went from $1,760 to $2,100. So essentially all of these, you'll see here, all of these went up by $340. And here are the percentage equivalents. Pretty significant. Then let's talk about the Speedies. Here's mine in the bandolier version in the 35 size. The 25 Classic, let's start with the Classics. Okay, I'm making a mess here. Let's just put that down. The 25 Classic went up by, here it is, by $140. So look, 25 went from $1,350 to $1,490, 10% increase. The 30 size Classic went from $1,370 to $1,550, $180 jump at 13%. The Speedy 35 Classic went from $1,390 to $1,620, $230 jump at 17%. And then the 40 went from $1,410 to $1,690, again, pretty significant, $280 jump at 20%. So those are the Classic Speedies. Also, I've got the Nano here. The Nano went from $1,320 to $1,350. That was a $30 increase at 2%. They're probably not pushing the Nano anymore because they have the Speedy 20 size, which I'm going to get to here. So here's the Speedy B20, the newer one, very popular now. It went from $1,890 to $2,030. So this too has broken the $2,000 mark pretty quickly after its release. That's a $140 increase at 7%. Then here are all the other Speedy Bs. The 20 size again in the Empreinte, if you're interested in that version, went from $2,440 to $2,570. $130 was the increase, 5%. Speedy B 25, so popular, that went from $1,690 to $1,820. Again, $130 increase, 8%. Speedy B 25 in the Empreinte leather went up by $120. New price is $27.10. Old price was $25.90. This one is fairly new, the Speedy B25 in the denim. It's been very popular. Stayed the same, I would hope so. They just released it. That would be ridiculous if they increased it just in a matter of weeks. Speedy B30 went from $1,740 to $1,890. That's a $150 increase at 9%. Speedy B35 went from $1,800 to $1,960. That's a $160 increase. I couldn't find the Speedy B40 online for some reason. Okay, and then we have the OnTheGos. OnTheGos went up as well, MM size went from $2,840 to $3,100. Wow, broke the $3,000 mark there. $260 increase, 9%. Then you've got the GM size on the go went from $2,970 to $3,250. That's a $280 increase. And this is quite tedious going down line by line, but hopefully it's helpful. Then you've got the PM size and the Empreinte, which has been pretty popular. That went up by $150. And then the MM size Empreinte one also went up by $150. So that's the old price, that's the new price. And then you've got the GM size, again, Empreinte leather, $3,400 to $3,500, went up by $100. So there you go on the go. The Almas, oh my goodness, okay. So the Almas all went up except for the MM size, it looks like, at least when I checked. So the Alma BB, which is probably the most popular, went from $1,620 to $1,760. $140 increase. Same $140 increase on the PM size, went from $1,820 to $1,960. Again, like I said, MM size seems to be flat. BB Epi, the Epi leather one, the classic Epi leather one, went from $1,820 to $1,960. That's a $140 increase. The newer Epi version with the wider strap, let me show you. This one here is the one I'm referring to, the newer one with the wider strap. So that's also a $140 increase. Then let's talk about the Montaigne. Montaigne BB went from $2,640 to $2,780. That was a $140 increase at 5%. The Montaigne MM size went from $2,730 to $2,910. That's $180 at 7%. Okay. And then the Odeon PM went from $1,920 to $2,100, $180 increase. And the MM size as well went up by $180 from $2,050 to $2,230. Okay, we're almost done. The NeoNoe, okay, the NeoNoe, the canvas version went from $1,890 to $2,030. So again, you're breaking barriers here. Now we're in the $2,000 mark. That's a $140 increase. For the Empreinte version of the NeoNoe went from $2,700 to $2,710. I put in here bold because they snuck in an increase between October and now. Somewhere along the way, I didn't even notice. So that was a little sneaky, Louis Vuitton. So technically, this was the price in October. This was the price in January of last year, so you can see the steady climb, and this is the new price here, $2,710. The NeoNoe in the Epi leather went from $2,430 to $2,570. Again, $140 increase. I don't know what's with the 140s, if that's like their number. Then the Palm Springs mini little backpacks went from $2,300 to $2,440. So that, again, $140 increase. I don't know. All right, the Bumbags. I've been hearing that there's rumors circulating that the Bumbags are going to be discontinued. I don't know if that's true or not. If you have confirmation, let us know in the comments below. The Bumbags and the canvas went from $1,900 to $2,030. So again, breaking that $2,000 barrier. It's going to be a $130 jump at 7%. Also for the Empreinte leather version, it went from $2,120 to $2,300. So that's an $180 increase at 8%. I don't know how to pronounce this, but I know this is a newer, this was from my old spreadsheet, but newer, Bolone, that went from $2,180 to $2,370, $190 increase, 9%. The Loop, which is fairly new here, the canvas monogram version of the Loop is going from $2,120 to $2,370. That's a $250 increase. The denim version, however, is fairly new, and so it looks like they left it flat at $2,440. So hopefully that stays flat for a little while. We have to talk about the Coussin collection. That's the last group that I want to talk about. Okay, the last collection that I want to talk about is the Coussin collection, which Louis Vuitton has been pushing really hard in the past year, coming out with all different sizes and different colors. Man, the largest dollar amount increase, not percentage increase, but dollar amount increase was in this Coussin collection. So let me show you. This one here, which is the MM size, went up by, drumroll, $1,100. Yes. This was $4,300. It is now $5,400. So it went up by $1,100, which is a 26% increase. So not the largest percentage increase. The largest percentage increase I think was on the mini pochette at 38%. But dollar-wise, this saw the largest increase. $1,100, over $1,000 increase on this. I don't even like this. I'm not a fan of the Coussin collection because I'll talk about that later. But I don't think it's worth it to pay over $5,000 for this thing. And it's super trendy. And I feel like it's going to go out of trend too soon. And okay, so let me show you the belt bag version. Let me show you the pictures. I mean, I think this color is beautiful, but here's the belt bag version, which may not be most practical because it's quite small, but this was $21.80. It's kind of expensive for this little thing. And now it is $24.40, so even more expensive. So it went up by $260, which is a 17% increase. Then you've got the Pochette version. This one here, I tried this on in the store a couple times. Cute, but just not my thing. This went from $25.70 to $28.40, so that was a $270 increase. That's equivalent to an 11% jump. Then you've got the BB size. Where is it? Here, oh, this is a special sequin one. Here's the BB size. Okay, the BB size here in the black went from $3,500 to now $4,050. So it jumped $550, which is a 16% increase. So it went from being in the $3,000 range to now it's in the $4,000 range. So I don't know, that's pretty insane. The orchid color is a little bit more expensive. I guess it's a bit more popular, or maybe it takes more work to make it this color. Was $3,900 and now it's $4,450. So this too went up by $550, which was a 14% jump. Then the PM size. Here's the PM size. It was $3,900 and it jumped to $4,700. So it's going like, yeah, that's an $800 increase, you guys. From $3,900 to $4,700, $800 increase. That's 21% jump. Yeah, and then nothing will top this though. Nothing will top this. The MM size went from $4,300 to $5,400. That's an $1,100 increase. $1,100 increase overnight. That's 26% jump. So do I think it's worth it to pay? Well, I mean, I don't really love the Coussin collection, so it's probably not a fair question for me, but this is definitely not worth $5,000. Nowhere near the ballpark. Hopefully you're not offended if you own this bag, but I just don't see it. So that's it. My goodness, I'm practically out of breath. I've gone through everything here, and I hope this was helpful, kind of like a quickie in terms of the prices and running through them. What do you guys think? How do you feel about LV right now? How do you feel about the price increases? Are you numb? Are you used to them? Are you expecting them? Are you annoyed? Are you disappointed? Are you frustrated? Are you moving to different brands? Just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And I don't know what to tell you. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.